Everyone in their own way is living inside a dream. Some of us dream about the big things we want to achieve in life. Others wonder, what does success really mean? Imagine what life will look like once they get there. And then there are those who feel like they have nothing at all, and their dream is just about finding a way to escape. According to Robert Greene, your real job in life is to understand what someone else dreams about, and then figure out how to help turn that dream into a reality. But the real secret, he says, is finding that delicate line between a person's ideal dream and the reality they experience in their mind. That's why in his book, The Art of Seduction, Greene titles Chapter 13, Confusion and Reality, the Perfect Illusion. To explain this idea, he uses the legendary Cleopatra as his prime example, along with the two most powerful men of her time, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. When these men were with Cleopatra, they completely forgot their real lives. It was like their responsibilities, their battles, their political dramas, all of it just melted away. They didn't feel like they were living in normal reality anymore. Instead, it felt like they had stepped inside a grand story, as if they were watching history unfold or experiencing something truly unreal. Cleopatra had mastered the art of reshaping reality. The perfumes she wore, the specific lighting she used in her chambers, and the entire environment she crafted around herself created an entirely different world for them. Every single detail was carefully designed to make Caesar and Antony feel like they had escaped the mundane, ordinary world and entered a new magical reality. This is exactly why illusion is so incredibly powerful. An illusion is something that we know isn't real, yet on some level we allow ourselves to believe it is. So what was the illusion for Caesar and Mark Antony? It was the feeling that their deepest, most unspoken desires and fantasies were finally coming to life right before their eyes. Now, to create this kind of powerful illusion, you don't need anything supernatural. You don't need magic wands or secret spells. All you need are small, meaningful changes to the everyday. For example, if you're going out to dinner with someone you care about, instead of the usual spot, choose a place that's a little unusual, maybe even cinematic, like something you'd see in a movie. Doing something just slightly different from the normal routine creates much stronger, more vivid memories. Another great example is travel. Whether it's exploring a new city in your own country or flying across the world, discovering new places and having new experiences makes those moments feel special and completely unforgettable. Or think about something even simpler. Listening to music late at night, watching the city lights flicker from a window, or just looking up at the moon and the stars and feeling a wave of gratitude. In those moments, it feels like time stops. You're not worried about the past or anxious about the future. You feel completely present. And what you remember later isn't the place itself, but the powerful emotion you felt in that exact moment. However, there's a catch. An illusion stops working the very moment you try to force it. If you try too hard to make things magical or perfect, the whole thing just falls apart and feels awkward. The real key is simplicity. You have to let things flow naturally and guide them gently. In the 1960s, a French diplomat named Bernard Boucicaut learned this lesson the hard, painful way. He fell deeply and madly in love with a Chinese opera singer named Shi Pei-pu from the very beginning of their relationship. There were red flags, little signs that something wasn't quite right. But his desire, his dream of this perfect love, was so strong that he ignored them all. For over 20 years, he lived in what he believed was reality, but was actually a complete illusion. He was so caught up in the story that he even believed the child she presented to him was his own. In truth, the opera singer was a spy, and Boucicaut was unknowingly passing sensitive government information to Chinese intelligence. Because he was so blinded by love, he couldn't see the deception happening right in front of him. Even after the truth came out and he was arrested, it was extremely difficult for him to let go of the illusion. Why? Because a belief that is mixed with deep emotion is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience. Once a belief connects with your heart, it becomes almost impossible to erase, even when your mind knows it's not true. This is what makes illusion so dangerous. It doesn't control the mind, it controls the heart. Today, illusion is everywhere. It's used heavily by influencers, artists, and inspirational leaders. They take their personal lives, edit them, beautify them, and turn them into compelling stories. The story becomes more important than the actual reality, and people start to believe it as truth. Without some form of illusion, you remain ordinary. But with a story and a carefully created image, you can become unforgettable. This leads us to chapter 14, the isolated victim. An isolated person is incredibly easy to influence. The more disconnected someone becomes from their family, their old friends, and their usual support system, the more dependent they become on the one person who is giving them attention. The trick, Greene says, is to make this isolation feel like a privilege, like you're inviting them into a secret world that only the two of you share. A powerful historical example of this is Rasputin. When he approached the Russian royal family, he didn't try to win over the Tsar or the court. He focused all his attention on the Empress's sick child, who no doctor had been able to heal. He didn't offer a cure, he offered hope. Rasputin wasn't a doctor or a priest, but he presented himself as a unique spiritual figure. He convinced the Empress that she was special, chosen, and misunderstood by everyone else. He told her that her great faith was her true strength. When others in the court mocked Rasputin or tried to warn her, he used it to reinforce the illusion. He would say, "See, they don't understand you. I am the only one who truly sees you." Over time, she began to trust him more than her advisors, more than her friends, even more than her own husband. Rasputin became her refuge, her confidant, her oxygen. This is a classic case of psychological manipulation through attention, isolation, and creating emotional dependency. Timing is everything. If you move too fast, you'll scare them away. But if you move carefully and patiently, they begin to feel special, protected, and completely unique. This technique isn't just used in romance. It's used by some of the most powerful leaders in history. Gandhi isolated his followers from their old identities, their castes, their religions, their pasts, to unite them under one single purpose. John F. Kennedy encouraged Americans to let go of the old ways of thinking and embrace a new, bold vision for the future. Isolation, when done skillfully, creates unity, dependence, and unwavering devotion. Finally, this brings us to chapter 15, Prove Yourself. Words are powerful, but over time they lose their effect. Eventually, people stop believing words like "I love you" or "you can trust me." They've heard them too many times. Instead, they start to test you, whether they realize it or not. They're silently asking 3 questions. What are your real intentions toward me? Are you being sincere? And are your feelings for me genuine? You can never erase this kind of doubt with more words. You have to prove yourself through action, and the most powerful proof requires sacrifice, especially a spontaneous sacrifice. For example, imagine the person you love calls you late at night. Her car broke down on a dark road and she's scared. You don't just comfort her with words over the phone. You get in your car and you show up. You are there. Most people talk a good game. Very few actually act on their words. Showing up. Being there physically when it matters most creates a level of belief and trust that no amount of words could ever achieve. That single act of showing up is worth more than 1,000 "I love yous." It proves your words are real. Proves you are real. It turns a simple statement into an undeniable truth. Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, please like, share, and subscribe for more insights.